I think also one of the favorite things from this episode for us too was that great scene on the phone with Fitz where you actually describe the in flagrant delicto that you discovered, which is where how the preacher actually died, how America's pastor actually died, and the two of you go into this amazing series of giggle fits.
We were really nervous about that scene because laughter is something that is very difficult to act because laughter is based on surprise and the unexpected, and it's hard to act surprised and to act as if an idea is sort of crossing your mind for the first time. And laughter is this very organic thing. It's this very vocal, physical behavior. It's very physical. So to make it real, I mean, we talked about it a lot, and we kind of really helped each other. We both were, actually, for those phone calls, and for a lot of the phone calls we do, Tony Goldwyn and I will be in the room kind of hiding behind a piece of furniture. So while one actor is on the phone, usually in the Oval Office, I'm hiding behind the right couch if you're facing the desk. I'm like crouched behind the couch saying my lines.
You may never know where Kerry Washington is crouched in the Oval Office there. But also just so people understand, a lot of times when actors act, they don't act to anybody else when they're doing those sorts of things. They act in a little bit of a vacuum. And one of the great things about this cast, and I think you guys all are really there for each other. So in a moment like that, which is really, really hard to do without some help and another person.
Yeah.
What's really great is you guys are always sort of feeding each other lines like that.
Yeah,
and
we really push each other and challenge each other. I just finished doing a scene with Columbus Short where I sort of kept screaming at him to get him into the zone. And in character, not screaming at him Kerry to Columbus, but screaming at him Olivia to Harrison.
Sure.
And we do. If we can be there for each other on the phone or in the room doing off camera, we do. I mean, we want to support each other. And that day, I remember turning to Tony and saying, I'm really nervous about the laughter. And he said, oh, thank God you said that. I'm really nervous too. Like, how do we help each other? And the great thing about working with Tony also is that he's a fantastic director. It's really fun to do scenes with him because the feedback is really smart. And he's not afraid to take risks because he has to do that all the time, push actors to do things differently.
What's great, too, is because you guys have such a natural chemistry. I mean, weirdly enough, because we cast both of you with neither of you had ever met each other, right?
We had met, but we'd never acted together. Right. Ironically, we'd worked together with this organization called the Creative Coalition, which is a political organization.
That's right.
So we had met, like, walking through the halls of the Senate to beg for arts funding, but we'd never actually acted together.
That's a nice kind of romantic setting.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that it's D.C.
It's so D.C.
The only context we knew each other was Washington.
That's so
strangely.
So funny. Well, we had this experience casting where we had cast you, and we were in the process of trying to find Fitzgerald.
How in the world do you cast a president?
Well, and that was the thing, which was it was super challenging, obviously, because it was incredibly challenging to cast Olivia Pope in theory, and then you walked in and it became incredibly easy to actually cast Olivia Pope because it was, one of those things where you think, oh my God, she can give bad news, but you still feel okay she's there, which is a huge part of it. And for a president, you really have to feel like the guy is smart enough, he's sharp enough, he's sensitive enough, he's the leader of the free world enough.
Yeah, he's fearless,
And Tony became available, and we've worked with Tony as a director before. We actually, I believe, hired him for something like the second or third episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Ever.
And then we also hired him for an episode of Private Practice, one of which was actually called Scandal.
No.
But I believe, I have to go back and check, but it had Scandal in the title. But he literally was one of those things where we got him, we were so excited, and we never put the two of you really in a room together before. And we did this, it was a test for hair and makeup and wardrobe.
Right.
And the two of you started talking, and it was one of those things where, sometimes the light shines and luck moves beautifully, and the two of you looked at each other, and Shonda and I looked at each other, and we just went, oh my God, they're so hot. And we must have done that for maybe 10 minutes, where we just sat there going, oh, have her change her clothes, they'll be hot again. So it's just like this weird hotness of hotness that was so awesome. And it's great when it works that way.
Yeah.
So we've had situations sometimes where it doesn't necessarily, but this was This was great, and you guys, there is such a palpable energy with these two characters that you really feel like, he's the leader of the free world.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a conflict which is just going to resolve itself very easily.
Right. No, I love that too, because I feel like season 1 was so much about the fantasy that maybe they could just easily ride off into the sunset and everything will be happily ever after. And then at the end of season 1, you realize it's not going to be that easy, but it's also not over. And so what do we do? I mean, you really are faced with the reality of what's at stake here, and two people who are really trying to do the right thing.